Everybody, thank you to everyone for attending this hybrid meeting of the ONS Task Group Select Move 2021 on Tuesday 15th of March 2022. My name is Councillor Ainsworth and I am Vice Chair of this committee, taking on the role of Chair this evening. Please note this meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. Members in the chamber, when you want to speak, please raise your hand to indicate to me that you wish to speak. When I invite you to speak, please turn your microphone on. Please turn your microphone off when you are finished speaking. If you are joining the meeting via Teams, please use the raise hand function on your iPad to indicate you wish to speak. If the technology fails, then I will adjourn the meeting for a few minutes to try and resolve the issue, or if this is not possible, a new date and time will be organised. Please can everyone ensure that their phones are turned to silent. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the alarms sound, please exit the way you came in. And have we got any apologies for absence, Matthew?
We have apologies from Councillor June Molyneux and Councillor James Nevitt, and I believe Councillor Steve Holgate.
Thank you very much. So agenda item number 1, minutes of the last task group from the 15th of February 2022. Are there any issues on the accuracy of these minutes? No. So the recommendation is that these minutes of the meeting be approved. Can I just have a proposer and a seconder, please? Yes, so Kim. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yes, I'll second.
Thank you, Hasina. So the minutes are approved. Thank you. Okay, so number 2, declarations of interest. Members are reminded of their responsibility to declare any pecuniary interest in respect of matters contained in this agenda. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Okay. So item number 3, discussion with representatives from the housing partners. So we've got a few people on the call this evening from different housing partners from Select Move. We've got Dean Wall, who is head of lettings at Jigsaw, Ivan Wright, who is from Jigsaw, and Stephen Spencer from Progress Group. So thanks very much for attending the group this evening. I'm just going to ask members and officers who are in the chamber and on Teams just to introduce themselves. So, Kim?
I'm Kim Snape. I'm a Trolley councillor. I represent Adlington and Anderton Ward. Thanks.
Right, I'm Sarah Ainsworth. I'm one of the councillors for Chorley North West Ward and I'm Vice Chair of this task group. Hasina?
I'm Councillor Hasina Khan. I represent Chorley East.
Hello, I'm Jennifer Mullin. I'm the Director of Communities.
And does anyone want to come in on Teams?
Hi, I'm Rachel Stewart, Housing Solutions Manager for Chorley.
I'm Dean Wall. I'm the head of lettings at Jigsaw Group. Hello, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ivan Wright. I'm the Assistant Director for Neighbourhoods for Jigsaw Homes Group.
Hi there, I'm Stephen Spencer. I'm Head of Housing Support Services for Progress Housing Group.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. I'll open the floor to members. Kim?
I had a couple of quick questions, really, or I'll kick it off. When a property becomes empty, that obviously you're responsible for, how long, as a housing association, do you aim to sort of get it sort of occupied by another tenant? You know, in terms, do you have any sort of timescales that you aspire? I know COVID's affected things slightly over the last 12, 18 months or so, but do you have any sort of timescales that you aspire to get it turned around within, or is it as long as a piece of string? Thanks. That was my first one. Thanks.
Shall I go first on that one? So we've got a target of 24 days. So 24 days, calendar days for general needs, and a little bit further for sheltered, so a Cat 2 schemes, 28 days. So yeah, so as soon as a notice comes in, we'll put it on Select Move, and we'll go through a bidding cycle, obviously try and allocate as quickly as we possibly can. We have had some issue, not just in Charlie, but the rest of our group in terms of works. So the void works element of getting properties turned around. In the COVID years, I would say, probably the last 2 years, just because of materials and operatives working together and the challenges on COVID. But our target is 24 days to get properties turned around and let. And obviously, it's in our best interest to do that as quickly as we can. So that's our answer, and that's what we'll be working towards the next financial year, if you like.
For us, our target for general needs is 23 days, and for independent living is 25 days. I had to quickly look at a report to remember what they were, sorry. We've struggled in terms of COVID, and more recently, since we've come out of lockdown, we have really struggled in terms of how the condition of the properties that are actually being handed back to us. And I think this is pretty common with other associations that I've spoken to in the Select Move and My Home Choice partnership. So we're a fair way off those targets, or have been this year. And certainly for independent living, we have struggled to let those. But again, that's just an ongoing thing with independent living stock.
Rachel?
Yeah, thanks. Just following on from Stephen's point there, that it might be helpful to know what the actual voids periods are at the moment. And I did send out questions to all of our partners after our last steering group, and I have had some responses back, but not all. And I thought it might be helpful to share that. I know there's nobody on the meeting tonight from Places for People, but they had got back to me to say that currently the average void length is 34 days. So I can only assume that their target is similar to your guys, but that's currently what their average void length is. I haven't had it for all of the other people who aren't on the call.
Kim?
Thanks. No, it was a. Oh, I think somebody's got a hand up, Sarah.
Dean, do you want to come in?
Yeah, just to say we're happy to provide that. Sorry, that's not got back to me, but we're very similar to that type of performance. It's mid-30s to late 30s, unfortunately. But like I said at the start, and I think Stephen said the same thing. It's works where the blockages are in terms of some of the conditions of properties that we're coming across. So yeah, but we are happy to provide and that data to you.
Stephen?
Hi, yeah, just in terms of our performance from December, against the target of 23 days, our general needs were at 29 days. That's ever so slightly improved as the year has gone on. And for general needs, against a target of 25 days, we're just short of 33 days. And again, that's improved, but ever so slightly as the year has gone on.
Kim?
Yeah, thank you for that. I think it's good if it's improving. I mean, I know from the sort of doorstep stuff that we do as councillors, particularly in our ward in Adlington, which is predominantly jigsaw properties, it has become apparent, certainly as we've started to do, things have become a bit more normalised, that there are quite a few properties that have been, or the perception is that they've been empty for quite a long time, and they do seem to take a while before they appear on Select Move and stuff. But if we could have the data, that'd be really interesting, because then we can put that straight with residents. My second question really was about banding for tenants. Again, it's slightly a sort of impression that residents have raised with us as councillors in Adlington, and I know I have raised one or two cases with the council, but there is, I mean, I know that the demand for social housing, there isn't enough social housing to meet the demand of people that want it. But we have had a few instances where, I mean, you know, we live in quite a nice village where people, if they tend to want a house, they tend to want to remain in that geographical area, so they tend to have to wait a long time to get a house in that geographical area. And we have had a few instances where they haven't bid for a while on Select Move, and then they've been sort of automatically, their band has been knocked down. Now they've said without their knowledge, and I know there are policies and stuff Rachel's touched on in the past that is within the rules for people to be rebanded. But I just wondered what processes do you go through as housing associations to encourage people to bid more, or are you just sort of pressuring them to take the first house that comes up when, you know, there are a lot of people that, you know, they might have children that live in a particular area or work in a particular area, and, you know, take Adlington as an example, people can't be affording to take a house in Penn with them because they won't be able to afford to travel to and from that area every day. So I just wondered how you work policy-wise in terms of that, please. Thank you.
Rachel?
Hi, yeah, can I just clarify on the question for our partners? Is it around when people are moved down the bands? Because I know we've touched on this previously about people being automatically moved down in the bands if they've not bid, and then having communications after the fact where they've been emailed to say we've moved your priority band down, as opposed to speaking to customers beforehand to say, why aren't you bidding? Is there any change of circumstances before we reband you? Is that the question, or is it more around the local connection stuff?
No, I suppose I didn't really phrase it very well, but I suppose as partners of Select Move, are you sort of judged upon how long, or I suppose as a partnership as a whole, are you judged upon how long people are on Select Move for? Therefore, if particular people that are on that list are biding the time and only bidding on select properties, do you tend to put the pressure on them to say, oh well, we're gonna degrade your banding because you're not bidding as frequently as we would like? Or do you provide that support to people and say, you know, why have you not bid, you know, and what's the, you know, is everything all right? Or that's it basically. Thanks.
I'll come to Stephen first.
No, we don't put any particular pressure on people to bid. Once they're on the register, they're on there and they're free to bid on the properties they want, really. I'm not aware of us as an association changing people's bandings because they haven't bidded for a long time. However, we do go through a process of reviewing applications. I think it's every 12 months, and reassessing them. We might ask for, things could have changed, so in terms of bedroom need, depending on the age of children and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes it needs reassessing. However, that I don't think has been done as proactively as it used to be since before the pandemic.
Dean, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just to echo what Stephen said, I think, you know, what I would say is Select Move is one of our best systems, because it is self-serve. There are 3 local authorities on it. There are multiple partners on it. So it's giving that customer a choice of what they are bidding for. We do reviews every 12 months on the lists, and obviously we'll take off inactive bidders. But there is no pressure in terms of putting that on applicants to bid for certain properties. I think looking at the policy, I think we give one reasonable offer for homeless cases. I think that's to encourage to get the local authority list down for Charlie. But again, we don't tell them what to bid for. That is based upon choice, and I think Select Move works really well for us.
Rachel?
Yeah, just to clarify on the one offer, for homelessness, that's a statutory homelessness duty. So we can make somebody one offer to discharge our statutory homelessness duty. If the customer still doesn't then want that, we will discharge that duty and we may remove the homelessness banding, but somebody doesn't come off the list and they may still have priority for other reasons. It's not a one strike policy, and you come off the waiting list.
Okay, I've just got a couple of questions, if that's okay. So I know Kim mentioned the local connection that has been raised. Is that defined for the same for each partner in Select Move, or do you have your own criteria for that? Stephen?
Yeah, it's the same for all partners. We follow the same policy in terms of how somebody is given a local connection. It's part of the common assessment policy. I can't remember what the phrase is now, but yeah, we all follow the same policy in that respect. So it would make no difference which partner they went to in terms of the local connection, as long as the application was processed correctly.
Okay, and then for residents who don't have access to digital services, do they have do you have in-house support, or do you signpost them out to other services? Dean, you had your hand up.
Yeah, we do. So I think we've written it into our allocations policy that anyone that requires extra support, we can get an officer out to see those people. Obviously, in Chorley, we've got what's the word to say? We've got a population, an older population maybe that might not be internet savvy. So on request, we will provide that personal approach for people. In terms of local connection, like Stephen said, we're all on the same policy in terms of that. In addition to that, on our own allocations policy, we do give priority to people with community contribution, which is a similar thing really. So band 2 of our own policy is gives people priority on that basis, people with local connection for employment and education, things like that. So it's something to be honest that I agree with. I think a lot of our lettings in Chorley will go to, the vast majority of lettings in Chorley go to people from Chorley and got connection to Chorley. And actually, it gives us them stable communities that we're after in terms of a good mix of allocations as well. So it's a positive thing, local connection.
Stephen?
Yeah, just really to echo what Dean said in terms of local connection and allocating to people who are in the area. It's the same for us really. We don't have that much stock in Chorley. The bulk of our stock is in Leyland, but the bulk of that stock by inference goes to people who are in the area. And just in terms of support, we've obviously, our head office is in the middle of Leyland and gets a lot of traffic. It's just starting to build up again for people who need support with applications. So we've got computers available there, and we'll provide outreach, as it were. We'll go into people's homes and provide support with applications, and do give them support to bid over the phone. So if they see property, they can ring us and we'll place that bid for them. So all of that support is there and available. And then we obviously have our own tenants that we support if they need to downsize or upsize or need to move to a different area. Then we offer that support to them as well.
Okay.
Could I just ask, I think it was what Dean said about the support for people that don't have the digital access or digital skills. Did you say that somebody from Jigsaw would actually go out to people's houses? Because I didn't know about that. I don't think any.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think obviously the online services, obviously these days, 2021 is 99.9% of customers. I think where if you come across, as councillors on your rounds where you think someone needs assistance, we would send an officer to provide that assistance and give that, you know, that helping hand if they couldn't do it through relatives or, you know, at other access points that they've not got access to. You know, we would, you know, Chorley Community Housing as an LSVT, but we've got customers in those villages that might need assistance. So if that got fed back into me, we would provide that service for people that were genuinely struggling with the systems. So it is digital by default. You know, I think that's fair to say that. But anyone who might be struggling to access that, then you know, we provide that service.
Stephen?
So yeah, let me know.
Stephen?
Sorry, I didn't mean to have my hand up there.
Ivan?
Yeah, thank you. Just to add to Dean's point, I think obviously most organisations have gone to mainly digital, partly because of COVID and kind of been pushed that way. But I think in addition to the offer of assistance, we have a fully staffed, obviously, contact centre, which deal with most of our inquiries as far as all manner of things to do with welfare, support, repairs and maintenance and things like that. So the same would apply for any kind of lettings queries. We'd have people available to speak to anybody that needed that help over traditional phone, because we recognise it is difficult. We have got face-to-face options, but not within Chorley. It's down in Sameside for that one, but certainly there's staff on all the time for the contact centre who can take those queries, and will be adept at understanding how the system works and be able to give advice over the phone. But as Dean says, failing all that, then yeah, in theory, we could come out and speak to somebody face to face.
Rachel?
Thanks. Sorry, can I just clarify with Dean and Ivan, because members are probably not aware of the fact that obviously we've got different processing partners on the system. So if a customer were to choose Chorley rather than Jigsaw as a processing partner, and the app sits with us, can Jigsaw still assist them where we have no capacity to do something face-to-face as a housing solutions team? Because obviously we look at what options we've got within the council to assist people with digital support and signpost them through the communities team or the currently commissioned services like CAB or even the voluntary sector. I just need to make that clarification for members that so they could have a constituent who has applied to Chorley to process their application, and we don't want to get the message out that Jigsaw will then help them face to face with making the app, if you see what I mean.
Dean?
Sorry, I just keep putting my hand up and down. Yeah, I think so. Obviously, I think the problem we've got, or the challenge we've got, we haven't got any opened office now in Chorley, so we don't have presence in terms of a venue as such. What we do have, we have a couple of officers that work in Chorley for me, like lettings officers essentially. So they can do, those two officers could do a handful of visits for people that we're bidding within Chorley. Obviously, it's not a service. They've obviously got lots of things to do. But if there is someone struggling with that need a home visit, for example, we could offer that service for the odd customer. Well, obviously, what we want to try and do is to access those online systems using our contact centre. But I think the challenge for us is we haven't got an office in the borough as such. So I wouldn't say it's a wide ranging service. It's something that we would say we would do after the other things have been, if you like, the other services are not an option, if you like. So it's a little bit it's there as a plan D or a plan E, really, rather than an open offer, I would say. That's being honest, you know. I think.
I think obviously we need a range of options, don't we? And as you say, the vast majority, and even a lot of the older population now, are coming to pick up digital skills, but there's got to be an option for when there really is a genuine need and to address that. So yeah, that's helpful to know. And for me and my service, that's helpful to know what we can tap into. Not that it would be our default pathway, as I say, you know, we still need a wider range of options. Thanks.
Kim?
Sorry, just touching up on a venue in Chorley for Jigsaw. Just obviously, when you closed your St Thomas's Road office, I think for a temporary period, you did have a bit of a presence in Union Street, didn't you? I just wondered, is there any reason why that ended, or was it through choice, or did the council shut you out, or I don't know. I'd just be really interested, because I thought that was dead valuable. I think it was part-time, weren't it? Or...
I think we've not got an open office in Chorley, so they use Union Street. The staff use Union Street, but it's not. It's Chorley Council's office, isn't it? It's the head office for Chorley Council. So we use it in terms of bums on seats, but we're not an open forum. It's not our office. It's Chorley Council's office. We could certainly do. I know we certainly use the office for appointments, but it's not a, like, if you're not, it's not a Jigsaw office. It's a facility that we use alongside the council. But again, you know, that could be an option if you know, the appointment system there. I know that we use the facilities, but it's just not our reception, if you like. It's not our front office. So yeah, so that's the answer to that one.
No, that's brilliant. You've clarified it, because I didn't know if you were still there or not. Can I ask another question? Yeah, I was just interested in, because it's been raised by quite a few people recently in our ward about mutual exchange, and I don't know, I think that's the official term, but most people call it house swap. Can you just tell us a bit about, I mean, it might be more of a question for Rachel, I'm not sure, but how that works and how long people have to be a tenant for, in terms of getting on that mutual exchange list, and what the procedure is for that. Thanks.
Stephen?
Was that me then? Yeah, so yeah, mutual exchange is a good thing. So we want people to mutual exchange where they can. It's an option for all of our tenants, a free service. Got to live in your council or social housing property for 12 months. And then after that, we run a mutual exchange service through House Exchange. So you can exchange with any other housing association tenant as long as they've lived in their property for 12 months. And we encourage that as well. You know, we want people to upsize, downsize. It's a valuable tool for us. So yeah, any constituents that you have, encourage them to, they can register direct through House Exchange, or they can ring us and we can help them do that as well.
Stephen?
It's the same for us, really. They have to have been with us for 12 months before they can apply to mutual exchange. And then there's various websites that you can use. I think Home Swapper is one of them. That we will actually cover the cost of if one of our tenants uses the service. We get very few requests for that payment. I think most people use things like Facebook and the various other social media platforms now to mutually exchange.
So I've just got a quick question. A lot of previous queries from the scrutiny focus on the common allocations policy. Has there been an agreement to review this policy by the partnership, and if so, when will it take place? Stephen?
Actually taking place next week on Wednesday. So we've got a meeting to discuss the policy and review that. That's the start of the process, because it's been quite a long time since that's been reviewed.
Rachel?
Yeah, just to follow on from what Stephen said, it won't be done and dusted next week, but we are starting the process. It takes a lot more than one meeting to review the whole policy. In fact, it can take several months, and there will be oversight. It's not, there will be input from all partners, and we may even need some consultancy on it as well, really, post-COVID. But it's on the next steering group agenda for next week, yes.
Kim, any question?
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah, just touching back on the mutual exchange and the house swap. Could you just clarify? So they have to be a tenant for 12 months. Is that 12 months in that one said property, or is that taking into account previous tenancies as well? Thanks.
You've got to be an assured tenant, so you've got to demonstrate 12 months in a current or previous social housing property. So you can exchange if you've got those rights. So normally, if you get your first tenancy, you get a starter tenancy. Although that is being phased out, I think later this year. Well, that's the government have suggested. I think it's going through House of Lords at the minute. Starter tenancies might get phased out, but if you do your first 12 months, then you've got assured rights, and then you can exchange. That's my understanding. Mutual exchanges. One in the housing on the partners back me up on that one, but I think that's what. As long as you've got that 12 months under your belt, then you can exchange.
Stephen?
I've just had a really quick look in the actual allocations policy with Select Move, and it's quite vague, to be fair, around mutual exchanges, and it is something that we've noted in terms of mutual exchanges and transfers that we wanted to raise at next week's meeting to try and bring it in line with our policy and the policy that we follow with Select Move. So that is something that probably needs to be a bit more explicit in the policy itself.
Jennifer?
Would normal mutual exchange be normally outside the Select Move process? Would that be in the sort of 25% quota, not in the 75%? Or is that done within Select Move?
Stephen?
I don't think it actually falls within the quotas, but I may be wrong, but I wouldn't imagine that it would, because you're not freeing up a property or taking a property that somebody needs. It's just two people swapping. So my understanding is that it's separate to what we would class as the 75%.
Dean?
Yeah, just to reiterate that, it's on the first page of the policy, the Select Move policy, it says there'll be no account of mutual exchanges, successions, or decants. So those are taken out for the 100%, if you like, of allocations. Because essentially, it's just a swap from one person to another. There isn't a void period, so it'd be taken out that bit.
Ivan?
Sorry, my computer's very slow. It was I had put that up a bit ago, and it's only just popped up now. But yeah, I was just going to reiterate, that's the case. Also, these are existing tenants who want to apply to swap ultimately with another existing tenant from any other housing provider as classed as social rented. So it doesn't affect anything to do with select move, the numbers of properties that go through. But it can be very useful for those people that aren't necessarily eligible to go on select move if they don't have the housing they need. So it's another option for people, which we often steer them to should they have issues, be adequately housed already and not be able to move through that process.
Kim?
Thanks. Sorry, I'm still learning about this process, mate, so it might be a bit of a silly question, but as you just said that mutual exchange is separate to select move in terms of how it's all measured and stuff. So if somebody, if somebody's on the mutual exchange list and they're swapping with another sort of social landlord tenant, could that be for anywhere in the country, or do the same sort of rules apply in terms of could it be from from Chorley to Essex or whatever? Could you just clarify that? Thanks.
Dean?
Yeah, indeed, it can be anywhere, is my understanding. Land zoned to John O'Groats if they wanted to do that. It's usually written within most tenancies that's their right. So once they're an assured tenant, they have the right to mutual exchange, and all social landlord tenancies would have that. So there's a number, as we mentioned earlier, a number of different schemes which people can register on, and they can swap with anybody on that register. Provided there's certain criteria that has to be met before it's allowed to go through. Providers will make sure that there's a property inspection completed and other things are checked before that takes place. But ultimately, yes, they can move anywhere in the country through that, which obviously, again, is another bonus when you're talking about areas that have a prerequisite for local connection. Obviously, those things wouldn't apply when you're using mutual exchange. So it can be very useful for that.
Rachel?
Just to say, I missed the end of the question, so I do apologise. But somebody can be on select move and be banded and bidding on select move and also be on mutual exchange lists, so they maximise their chances of moving if that's what they want to do. It's not an either or option. You, as I say, you can be bidding on select move as well as being on mutual exchange home swapper sites.
Dean?
Yeah, all I was going to say on the mutual exchange thing, yes, you can move from Land's End to John O'Groats, but you can't move someone in, for instance, general needs into extra care. So if that one of the properties is designated for a specific use, then there's refusal reasons on that basis. So it's not a complete free for all in terms of that. It's more like certain sheltered accommodation or certain other tenures that you can't move into. So that's the exception to the, if you like, free for all.
I've just got another question, if that's okay. How are properties handled with high interest and how are properties advertised with low interest? Stephen?
So we would always advertise all of our properties through select move per se. So in terms of low demand property, which is properties which are predominantly independent living, we have them all on, well, most of our independent living stock is just advertised all the time on the available now section, I think it is, on select move. So that's always there, and if there isn't a property available, we hold our own waiting list so that we can go back to people. And then we use a site called Moving Soon, which is relatively cheap to advertise on, and we have quite a good success rate, but we don't particularly struggle to let our general needs properties, so that isn't generally a problem, and they're advertised on select move as standard for a week.
Dean?
Yeah, very similar. So general needs or high demand, you know, it always gets put through select move, and we wouldn't go past one bidding cycle. You know, I think demand's never been greater in every region, but in Chorley as well. In terms of low demand sheltered, so we do have the odd low demand sheltered scheme in Chorley. Again, we do keep it on CBL, on the available homes section, to the people can bid. Obviously look at other marketing initiatives, things like refer a friend in sheltered schemes works pretty well. We've got schemes, we've got a scheme in Coppell, got a scheme in Central Chorley, and we'll do that type of incentive based for the residents that live there, community lets, if you like. And then we look at right move, places like that, because obviously we don't want empty properties, you know. And like I said before, I think specifically in Chorley, it's local people that are looking as well. So we'll advertise on Rightmove, Facebook, everything local, to try and fill our low demands. But luckily, you know, we don't have that many in this area, so that's a positive thing.
Kim?
In terms of your sort of accommodation, I can think of a few in our ward that is sort of particularly for like over 55s and things like that. Are there sort of clauses in select move and things for yourselves in terms of allocating people that might not be in that age bracket or that need bracket? I mean, just to put it in specifics, I mean, as we sort of do our rounds as councillors, I know June would raise it if she was here, who's the chair. We have quite a lot of accommodation in Adlington that was meant for older people, and we seem to be seeing more and more younger people, or more and more people moving into those properties that have got, or that have tried to be moved into those properties that have got possible backgrounds that might not be appropriate for living next door to your grandma. And I just wondered, is that set in stone as far as select move's concerned, about those particular schemes, or is there a way for you to work around it? Thanks.
Stephen?
I think that's really for individual partners to decide in terms of the demographics of the customers that they want to be in those schemes. But we generally, an integral scheme, we generally would stick to applicants who are over 55, and we do more sort of checks, as it were, to make sure they're suitable for the scheme. The street schemes, where they've got a front door going onto the street, as it were, we're decommissioning quite a few of those now because there isn't as high a demand for them, and we're moving younger people into those, but we're still doing them on a sensitive let basis, so that we don't have somebody who's older on the ground floor and then, you know, 20-year-olds on the top floor, which just wouldn't work. So you've just got to manage it that way. But we're actually about to start on a strategic review of all of our independent living schemes due to the low demand. We obviously closed Mainway Court in Leyland a couple of years ago, so we may look to either change the use of the schemes or close some down, but that's certainly a while off yet. We've only just started on that.
Rachel?
Yeah, thanks. Partly response and partly question, really. I'll apologise in advance to my colleagues from the partnership, because they will know the answer to this better than I do. They'll know the allocations policy backwards and forwards. I'll still claim the new girl card. In terms of the over 55s schemes and the criteria when it goes through select move, is there exemptions within the policy that could be that could have generated these queries really from customers and from our councillors, where if there is a medical exemption, so say somebody is in the late 40s or early 50s, but they have a medical need for one of those types of properties, could that be the case?
Dean?
Yeah, I think we operate on 55 plus, generally speaking. But even in the select move policy, it says normally over 55. So we would consider people slightly under that age that had a medical or support need that's required for that scheme. That's not to say that we wouldn't do vetting and checks. Obviously, with one bad letting in a scheme could ruin the whole scheme. So we do an initial needs assessment to recognise what the support requirements are, and then in addition to that, we'll do reference checking, affordability checking, background checking, as much as we can, to make sure that those communities are balanced. But there is a little bit of flexibility on the age, in terms of it's not strictly 55 plus. We go for that, that's what we will go for in the first instance. But we will put people in at 52, 53 if they've got a need to be in that type of accommodation, and that's what our policy says.
Okay. What are the most popular demographics for homes? Dean?
So I would say definitely 2-bed and 3-bed houses. That's where you get your majority of your bids. And then 1-bed flats. 2-bed flats, not so much. So on the other end of the scale. Then you got your bed sits, probably the bottom end of the scale. So we're looking at bed sits, that type of accommodation, to see what we can do, conversions and stuff like that across our group. Making those a bit more appealable to people. But generally speaking, 2 beds, 1 beds, 1-bed flats, 2-bed houses, 3-bed houses, 4-bed houses. All good demand for those types of accommodation. That's the stuff that we've built. So that all. Yeah, we're not struggling in terms of demand. Like I say, I think it's big. It's bigger than ever before. It's just going to get bigger. So hopefully we can build more in short.
Stephen?
I think that the thing that I keep raising in progress with development colleagues that comes from our partners and from what I've seen is that we build family homes, but there is nothing for younger people. So that is where there is, for me, a massive shortage in accommodation for younger people. 1-bedroom flats, and you see not so much demand for 2-bedroom, because then you have the bedroom supplements. But yeah, I think younger people, certainly the conversations I've had in South Ribble and in Infield as well, that it is just not available for them. And I've got another meeting in a couple of weeks with some partners in File looking at accommodation for care leavers, which there isn't the support and the accommodation for those as well. So I think the focus is always on family homes, and that to me, there is family homes, there's not enough of them. There's nowhere near enough accommodation for younger people.
Kim?
I was just going to say, is there anything that you think as partners of Select Move that needs? I mean, obviously you've touched on some of those things, but anything that you think needs to be improved in terms of the process or the policies, or any feedback that you get from your tenants as to what would make the whole sort of walk through the system better for the service user?
Stephen?
From the transactional surveys that we carry out, so we send out transactional surveys to everybody who moves into one of our properties, albeit at the end of the process once they've got the keys. And one of the questions that we've just changed was just to get a better feel of the application process. And in general, The feedback is relatively positive in that it is quite a simple process. You can look at other schemes that are set up differently. So My Home Choice, for example, have a need and a no-need stream. And if you're in the no-need stream, it's a very basic application. However, that can cause problems later when people have bidded on a property and they potentially think they're going to get it. And then when you do the checks, they don't pass the checks, referencing and stuff like that. So that in itself can cause problems. But we've never had any complaints in terms of the application process to say that it's difficult or too long. And Abritas as a system is probably, I think, the most popular system that's used in the country anyway.
Dean?
Yeah, I just echo what Stephen said there. I think it's one of the best. You know, we've got, I think, 25 of these CBLs that we're working or something. So I forget the number. There's that many of them. But I think, you know, because it's 3 local authorities, because it's, you know, I forget how many partners in. It's quite a lot. It's simple to use. It's clear. And I think as long as we move towards that in that direction, because everything online is very quick and slick these days, isn't it? So as long as that happens in the review, that it's easy for customers to use, and we keep the same level of demand. Yeah, I've not got anything negative to say about Select Move. I think it works. So yeah, so that's my take on it. And customers seem to like it. So yeah, you know, we might have to provide a little bit of extra support to those that can't access the system. But yeah, it's generally positive from our perspective.
Rachel?
Thanks. Yeah, just to follow on in a similar vein, really, in terms of looking at the scale of the system and the scale of applicants and the scale of properties that are allocated through it. I think I would hope that we find in our own scrutiny and our own contact with customers when we do our survey, that for the vast majority of people, Select Move does work and it works well. People will always wait longer than they would like to for social housing because of the lack of that resource. And I think we will always have people who, you know, because of their own circumstances and because of those delays that are unavoidable, the partnership have no control of. They may be dissatisfied with the service, but I think they are a small proportion of the people coming through the system.
Stephen, did you have your hand up?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. I've just got one final question. Are new homes being made available on Select Move through your service? And if so, what are they part of Section 106's?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
All right. Are new homes being made available on Select Move through your service? And if so, are they part of Section 106? Dean?
Yes. So we've done 700 since 2010 in Chorley, in the borough of Chorley, and they've all been Section 106, and they've all gone through Select. And generally speaking, I think it's been positive applicants, and we've not had, to my knowledge, because I've been there the whole way, complaints, you know, for transparent bidding cycles. So everything's gone through that route, and it's been positive. It's worked. So yeah. So a long way to continue. You know, hopefully we can keep building and in Chorley, because it's been a positive experience for us, and yeah, it's worked. So I think thumbs up from me. I think it's, you know, we do have issues in other local authorities, but servicing, you know, a big development program like that. It helps if you've got a decent service behind it. So yeah, positive.
Got any more questions from the floor? Okay. Does anybody want to put forward anything they want to let members know in the room this evening?
No, nothing from me.
No. Okay. I'm going to wrap the meeting up now. I think we've had a relatively good discussion. So the date of the next meeting is going to be Thursday the 14th of April 2022 at 6:30 p.m. I've no other urgent items, and I now declare this meeting closed. So thank you very much for your attendance this evening, and have a good evening. Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Very much.